Montana Territory, 1888. Eleanor Sterling pressed one hand against her swollen belly and gripped the stagecoach rail with the other as the driver helped her down. 6 months pregnant and 1,000 miles from everything she knew, she had nowhere left to run. The ranch stretched before her in the autumn twilight, and somewhere in that weathered house was the man whose letters had promised her safety. She prayed he was as kind as his word suggested, because if he turned her away now, she would have nothing. The front door opened, and a man stepped onto the porch. Tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a tan vest over a work shirt, dark brown hair catching the last light of day. Elijah Chambers. Her husband-to-be, if he would still have her after he learned the truth. He moved down the steps with easy confidence, his boots crunching on the packed earth. As he drew closer, Eleanor saw his eyes, blue and searching, travel from her face down to her rounded middle and back up again. She watched his expression shift from welcome to shock, to something she could not quite read. The silence stretched between them like a held breath. "Mr. Chambers," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "I am Eleanor Sterling, your bride." "I can see that," he said quietly. His gaze dropped to her belly again, then back to her face. "Seems there is something you did not mention in your letters, Miss Sterling." Heat flooded her cheeks. "I know. I am sorry. I should have told you, but I was desperate, and I thought if you knew, you would not send for me, and I had nowhere else to go." The words tumbled out too fast, born of fear and exhaustion. "If you want to send me back, I understand. I have a little money saved. I can pay for passage east." "Send you back?" Elijah repeated. He removed his hat and ran a hand through his hair, looking at her with an expression she still could not identify. "Where would I send you? Back to whatever drove you out here in the first place." "I can go to Denver," she said, though she had no idea what she would do there. "Find work somewhere." "Work?" he echoed, his eyes dropping to her condition once more. "What kind of work do you think you will find like that? And when the baby comes, what then?" Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back fiercely. She had not cried when her family disowned her, had not cried through the long journey west. She would not cry now. "I will manage," she said. "I always do." Elijah studied her for a long moment, his blue eyes thoughtful. Then he stepped forward and picked up her single carpet bag. "Come inside," he said. "You must be tired from the journey." Eleanor did not move. "Mr. Chambers, I need to know. Are you sending me away?" He turned back to her, surprise clear on his face. "No," he said simply. "I am not sending you away." "But the baby," she started. "The baby needs a home," Elijah interrupted gently, "and so do you. We will figure out the rest." He gestured toward the house. "Please, come in. You are cold, and you need to sit down." Eleanor followed him up the porch steps, her heart pounding. Inside, the house was simple but clean. A stone fireplace dominated one wall. A kitchen area with a wood stove occupied another. Rough-hewn furniture filled the space, handmade but sturdy. It smelled of wood smoke and coffee and something baking. "Sit," Elijah said, nodding toward a chair near the fire. "I will make tea." Eleanor sank into the chair gratefully, her back aching from the long ride. She watched as Elijah moved around the kitchen with practiced ease, setting a kettle on the stove. pulling down cups. His hands were large and capable, scarred from work, but gentle in their movements. "How far along are you?" he asked, not looking at her. 6 months, Eleanor said quietly. "The baby will come in March." Elijah nodded, still focused on the tea. "The father," he began, then stopped. "I am sorry. That is not my business. He is dead," Eleanor said, and it was easier to say than she expected. "He died before I knew about the baby. We were not married." That made Elijah turn. He studied her face, and she lifted her chin, refusing to look away. Let him see what she was. Let him judge, if he must. "I see," he said finally. He brought her a cup of tea and sat down across from her. "Your family disowned me," Eleanor said. "My father gave me $50 and told me never to come back. My mother cried, but did nothing to stop him." The memory still stung, but she kept her voice level. "I had heard about mail-order brides going west. It seemed like a chance for a new start. So you wrote to me," Elijah said. "I wrote to several ranchers," Eleanor admitted. "You were the one who answered. Your letters were kind. You seemed like a good man. And you did not think a good man deserved honesty?" The rebuke was gentle, but it landed hard. Eleanor set down her teacup with shaking hands. "You are right," she said. "I should have told you. I was afraid, and fear made me dishonest. If you want me to leave in the morning, I will go." Elijah was quiet for a long moment, staring into the fire. When he spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "I have been alone here for 3 years," he said. "My wife died in childbirth. The baby too. A son. I buried them both out under the cottonwood tree by the creek." Eleanor felt her throat tighten. "I am so sorry. I told myself I would never marry again," Elijah continued. "That it hurt too much to love and lose. But the winters are long, and the house is empty. And I found myself writing those letters to the marriage broker anyway." He looked at her then, his blue eyes direct. "I was looking for companionship, for someone to share this life with. A partner. And instead you got a pregnant woman with no prospects and a shameful past," Eleanor said bitterly. "I got a woman who is brave enough to travel 1,000 miles alone to build a new life," Elijah corrected. "A woman carrying a child who needs a home and a father. A woman who is honest enough to tell me the truth, even when it might cost her everything." Eleanor stared at him. "You are not angry?" "I am surprised," Elijah said, "but not angry. Life is complicated, Miss Sterling. People make choices. Some work out, some do not. What matters is what we do next." "What do you want to do next?" Eleanor asked, almost afraid of the answer. Elijah stood and moved to the window, looking out at the darkening prairie. "I want to give that child a name," he said quietly. "A home, a father. If you will let me." Eleanor could not speak for a moment. When she found her voice, it came out rough. "Why would you do that?" He turned back to her, and in the firelight, his face was open, vulnerable. "Because I know what it is like to lose a child," he said. "And I will not let another one come into this world unwanted. Not if I can help it." The next morning, Eleanor woke in a real bed for the first time in weeks. Elijah had given her his room, insisting he would sleep on the floor by the fire. She had protested. but he had been firm. A pregnant woman needed proper rest, he said, and that was the end of it. She dressed slowly, her back aching, and made her way to the kitchen. Elijah was already up, cooking bacon and eggs at the stove. He looked up when she entered and smiled, a genuine expression that softened his rugged features. "Good morning," he said. "I hope you slept well." "Better than I have in months," Eleanor admitted. "Thank you for the bed." "It is yours now," Elijah said, plating the food. "I will build a partition and make myself a proper sleeping space out here. Should not take more than a few days." Eleanor sat down at the table, still trying to make sense of his kindness. "You do not have to do all this," she said. "I can work. I can earn my keep." "I know you can," Elijah said, setting a plate in front of her. "But you are 6 months pregnant, Eleanor. You need to rest, not work yourself into exhaustion." He paused, then added more gently, "Let someone take care of you for once." The words nearly undid her. Eleanor looked down at her plate, blinking hard. "I do not know how to accept this," she whispered. "Any of it. Your kindness. This home. I keep waiting for it to be taken away." Elijah sat down across from her. "Nothing is going to be taken away," he said firmly. "This is your home now. You and the baby both. I meant what I said last night. About giving the baby your name?" "Yes." Elijah's voice was steady. "We will marry as soon as possible, before anyone in town starts asking questions. The baby will be born at Chambers. No one ever needs to know different." Eleanor lifted her eyes to his. "Why are you doing this? You could have any woman you wanted. Someone without complications. Someone who could give you children of your own." "Maybe I do not want someone without complications," Elijah said. "Maybe I want someone real. Someone who has lived through hard things and survived. Someone who knows what matters." He held her gaze. "And as for children of my own, that baby you are carrying will be mine in every way that counts. Blood is not the only thing that makes a family." Eleanor felt a tear slip down her cheek despite her efforts to hold it back. "I do not deserve this," she said. "I do not deserve you. You deserve safety," Elijah said, quietly. "You deserve a home. You deserve someone who will stand by you. That is what I am offering. If you will accept it." "I accept," Eleanor whispered. "Thank you." They married 3 days later in town, a simple ceremony at the small church with the preacher and his wife as witnesses. Elijah bought Eleanor a simple gold ring and slipped it on her finger with steady hands. She wore the best dress she owned, her belly making the fit awkward. But Elijah looked at her like she was beautiful anyway. Afterward, they drove back to the ranch in his wagon. Eleanor sat beside him, her new husband. This stranger who had shown her more grace in 3 days than her own family had in a lifetime. "Are you all right?" Elijah asked as they pulled up to the house. "I am married," Eleanor said, still trying to make it real in her mind. "To a good man. I have a home. The baby will have a name." She looked at him. "I am better than all right. I am grateful." Over the following weeks, they settled into a rhythm. Elijah ran the ranch, tending his small herd of cattle and making repairs before winter set in. Eleanor took over the household tasks, cooking and cleaning, and organizing the small cabin into a real home. They moved carefully around each other at first, polite strangers learning to share space. But gradually, comfort grew between them. Elijah would come in from the cold, and Eleanor would have coffee waiting. She would struggle to reach something on a high shelf, and he would appear at her elbow to help. Small kindnesses built a foundation neither had expected. One evening in late October, Eleanor was sitting by the fire mending one of Elijah's shirts when she felt the baby move. She gasped, pressing her hand to her belly. Elijah looked up from the account books he was reviewing. "Are you all right?" "The baby kicked," Eleanor said, wonder in her voice. "Strong this time." Elijah set down his pencil. He looked at her, then at her rounded belly, uncertainty crossing his face. "May I?" he asked quietly, gesturing. Eleanor nodded, touched by his request for permission. Elijah knelt beside her chair and carefully placed his large hand on her belly. They waited in silence, and then it happened again. A definite push against his palm. Elijah's face transformed. His eyes widened, and a smile spread across his features, genuine and unguarded. "That is amazing," he breathed. "So strong." "He is a fighter," Eleanor said softly. "He?" Elijah looked up at her. "Or she," Eleanor corrected, smiling. "I do not know, but strong either way." Elijah kept his hand on her belly a moment longer, feeling another small movement. When he pulled away, his expression was tender. "Thank you," he said, "for letting me be part of this." "You are not just part of it," Eleanor said quietly. "You are the father, the only one this baby will know." Something passed between them then, a moment of connection deeper than either had anticipated. Elijah reached up and gently brushed a strand of hair from Eleanor's face, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "I am starting to care for you," he admitted, his voice rough. "This was supposed to be practical, a partnership, but I find myself wanting more." Eleanor's breath caught. "What kind of more?" "The real kind," Elijah said. "Not just sharing a house, but sharing a life, truly." He searched her face. "Is that something you could want? In time?" Eleanor covered his hand with hers, pressing it against her cheek. "I think I already want it," she whispered. "You have been kinder to me than anyone in my life. You make me feel safe, valued, seen. How could I not care for you?" Elijah leaned forward and kissed her forehead, soft and reverent. "We will take our time," he said. "No rush. But I want you to know, Eleanor Chambers, I am glad you stepped off that stagecoach. Glad you are here. Glad that baby is coming into this world in our home." "Our home," Eleanor repeated, and the words felt like a benediction. November brought the first real cold. Snow dusted the prairie, and Elijah worked long hours preparing for winter. He reinforced the barn, chopped massive amounts of firewood, and butchered a steer for the winter stores. Eleanor watched him work with growing admiration. He was strong but never cruel, capable but never boastful. Everything he did was with care and purpose. One afternoon, she was kneading bread dough when she heard a wagon approaching. She looked out the window to see a woman climbing down, well-dressed in a good wool coat and matching hat. Eleanor's stomach clenched. She had not met any of the neighbors yet, and her condition was obvious now. Elijah came out of the barn and walked over to greet the visitor. Eleanor could see them talking, the woman gesturing toward the house. Then Elijah nodded and led her to the door. "Eleanor," he called as he entered. "We have a visitor. This is Margaret Walsh. She owns the ranch to the north." Margaret Walsh was in her late 40s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She looked Eleanor up and down, her gaze lingering on the swollen belly. Eleanor lifted her chin, refusing to look away. "So you are the mail-order bride," Margaret said bluntly. "Heard Elijah got married sudden. Can see why now." Heat flooded Eleanor's cheeks, but before she could respond, Elijah stepped forward. "Eleanor is my wife," he said firmly. "And I would appreciate it if you remembered that, Margaret." Margaret raised an eyebrow. "No offense intended, Elijah. Just stating facts. Baby coming in what, 3 months?" "March," Eleanor said, finding her voice. "The baby is due in March. And you married when? September?" "October," Elijah corrected coolly. "Is there something I can help you with, Margaret? Or did you ride over here just to make my wife uncomfortable?" Margaret had the grace to look slightly abashed. "Actually, I came to welcome her properly," she said, pulling a basket from behind her back. "Brought some preserves and bread. Thought she might like to know she has a neighbor nearby." Eleanor was surprised. She took the basket hesitantly. "Thank you," she said. "That is very kind." Margaret's expression softened slightly. "Life out here is hard enough without people judging each other," she said. "Lord knows I made my share of mistakes in my younger days. What matters is you two are together now, taking care of that baby." She looked at Elijah. "You are a good man, Elijah Chambers. Your wife is lucky to have you." "I am the lucky one," Elijah said, and the way he looked at Eleanor made her heart skip. After Margaret left, Eleanor busied herself putting away the preserves. Elijah watched her for a moment, then came up behind her and gently turned her to face him. "Are you all right?" he asked. "She knows," Eleanor said quietly, "about the baby, that it is not yours." "She suspects," Elijah corrected. "But she cannot know for certain. And even if she does, she will not spread gossip. Margaret has her own past. She understands." Eleanor nodded, but her hands were shaking. Elijah took them in his, warming them. "Look at me," he said softly. When she raised her eyes to his, he continued, "This is our child. Ours. Anyone who says different can answer to me. Do you understand?" "Yes," Eleanor whispered. "I mean it, Eleanor. That baby is mine. In every way that matters, that baby is mine." Eleanor felt tears well up. She had cried more in the past month than in the past year, and every tear came from gratitude. "How are you so good?" she asked. "How can you be this kind?" "I loved my first wife," Elijah said, honestly. "Loved her deeply. When she died, I thought that was it for me. No more love, no more family. But you came here, carrying this child, and I realized something." He cupped her face gently. "My heart is bigger than I thought. Big enough to love again. Big enough to love you both." "Elijah," Eleanor breathed, and then his lips were on hers, soft and questioning. She kissed him back, pouring all her gratitude and growing affection into the gesture. When they parted, both were breathing hard. "I love you," Elijah said simply. "I know it is fast. I know we barely know each other. But I love you, Eleanor. You and that baby both." Eleanor touched his face, feeling the roughness of his jaw under her fingers. "I love you too," she whispered. "You saved my life. You gave me hope when I had none. How could I not love you?" They stood together in the fading light, holding each other, and Eleanor felt something she had not felt in months. Peace. Safety. Home. December brought heavy snow and bitter cold. Elijah made sure the house was warm, the woodpile high, the root cellar stocked. Eleanor moved more slowly now, her belly large and cumbersome, but she refused to stop helping around the house. It drove Elijah to distraction. "You need to rest," he insisted one morning, finding her scrubbing the floor on her hands and knees. "I am pregnant, not ill," Eleanor retorted, but she let him help her to her feet. Her back ached constantly now, and she was tired all the time. But she hated feeling useless. "You are carrying a child," Elijah said firmly. "That is work enough." He guided her to a chair. "Sit. I will finish the floor. You have ranch work to do." "The ranch can wait. You cannot." He knelt down with the scrub brush, and Eleanor watched this strong, capable man clean her kitchen floor with the same care he gave to everything. Her heart swelled with love for him. "Elijah?" she said softly. He looked up. "Yes? Thank you. For everything. For making me feel like I matter." He set down the brush and came to her, kneeling beside the chair. "You do matter," he said intensely. "More than you know. You matter to me. This baby matters to me. You are my family now, Eleanor. The family I thought I would never have again." Eleanor kissed him then, deep and sure. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his. "I will try to rest more," she promised. "For the baby. And for yourself," Elijah added. "I want you healthy and strong. Both of you." Christmas came quietly. They had no decorations, but Eleanor made a special meal with supplies Elijah brought from town. He gave her a beautiful shawl he had bought from the general store. Warm wool dyed a deep green. She gave him mittens she had knitted in secret, working on them late at night by firelight. "They are perfect," Elijah said, pulling them on. "Warmest mittens I have ever had. Your hands are always cold when you come in," Eleanor said. "I wanted you to be warm." Elijah pulled her close as her belly would allow, and kissed her thoroughly. "I am warm," he murmured against her lips. "Warmest I have ever been." That night, they sat by the fire together, Eleanor leaning against Elijah's shoulder. The baby kicked and rolled, active as always. Elijah's hand rested on her belly, feeling each movement with wonder. "He is going to be a strong one," Elijah said. "Or she," Eleanor reminded him with a smile. "Boy or girl, does not matter to me," Elijah said. "Healthy is all I want. You both healthy and safe." "I am scared," Eleanor admitted quietly. "About the birth. Your first wife died, and I keep thinking, what if the same thing happens to me? What if something goes wrong?" Elijah tightened his arms around her. "I have been thinking about that too," he said honestly. "So I rode to town last week and talked to Dr. Harrison. He is going to come out here a week before your due date and stay until the baby is born. And Margaret Walsh has delivered babies. She said she will come too, if we want her." Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes again. "You did that for me?" "For us," Elijah corrected. "I will not lose you, Eleanor. I cannot. You have to know, these past months, you have become everything to me. You and that baby, my whole world. I feel the same, Eleanor whispered. I came here expecting nothing, just survival. But you gave me so much more. You gave me love. Real love. The kind I did not know existed. I will love you until the day I die, Elijah said fiercely. You and our child. Our family. January and February crawled past, cold and slow. Eleanor grew larger and more uncomfortable. But Elijah was endlessly patient. He rubbed her aching back, helped her in and out of chairs, brought her tea when she could not sleep. He talked to her belly, telling the baby stories about the ranch, about Montana, about the life they would have. You are going to love it here, he said one night, his hand splayed across Eleanor's belly. Wide open spaces, sky so big it makes you feel small and important all at once. Your mama and I will teach you everything. How to ride, how to work the land, how to be strong and kind. He looked up at Eleanor. And we will make sure you know you are loved. Always loved. No matter what. Eleanor stroked his hair, overwhelmed by the depth of emotion in his voice. This man who had started as a stranger had become her world. Her safety. Her home. In mid-March, as the snow finally began to melt, Eleanor woke in the pre-dawn darkness with a sharp pain in her belly. She gasped, clutching her middle, and Elijah was instantly awake beside her. "What is wrong?" he asked, already reaching for the lamp. "I think it is time," Eleanor said, trying to breathe through another pain. "The baby is coming." Elijah was up and moving instantly, pulling on his boots. "I will get Dr. Harrison and Margaret. Do not move. Just breathe." "Elijah," Eleanor called as he headed for the door. He turned back, and she said, "I love you. Whatever happens, I need you to know that. You gave me everything. A home, a family, hope. I love you." He crossed back to her in 3 strides and kissed her hard. "Nothing is going to happen," he said fiercely. "You are going to be fine. The baby is going to be fine. I am not losing you. Do you hear me? I am not losing you." Then he was gone, racing into the night. Eleanor lay back, breathing through the pains, praying he was right. The next hours were a blur of pain and fear and effort. Dr. Harrison arrived first, calm and capable, setting up his supplies. Margaret came soon after, rolling up her sleeves and taking charge of the hot water and clean cloths. Elijah refused to leave, staying by Eleanor's side, holding her hand, wiping her forehead, whispering encouragement. "You can do this," he said over and over. "You are the strongest woman I know. You can do this." Eleanor clung to his voice, to his presence, through the long morning and into afternoon. The pain was immense, consuming, but she focused on Elijah's face, on his steady belief in her. "Almost there," Dr. Harrison said. "One more push, Eleanor. Give me one more." Eleanor bore down with everything she had, squeezing Elijah's hand so hard she thought she might break it. And then, suddenly, release. A thin wail filled the room, and Dr. Harrison lifted a red-faced, squalling infant. "It is a girl," he announced, smiling. "A healthy, baby girl." Eleanor sobbed with relief as Margaret cleaned the baby and wrapped her in a soft blanket. Then Margaret placed the tiny bundle in Eleanor's arms, and the world narrowed to the small, perfect face looking up at her. "She is beautiful," Eleanor breathed, touching the tiny fingers, the soft dark hair. "She is perfect." Elijah leaned over them both, his eyes wet. "She is," he said hoarsely. "She is perfect." He touched the baby's cheek with one gentle finger. "Hello, little one. I am your papa, and I love you more than you will ever know." The baby's tiny hand closed around his finger, and Elijah made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. "She knows me," he said wonderingly. "She knows I am her papa." "Of course she does," Eleanor said softly. "You talk to her every night. She knows your voice." Dr. Harrison finished checking Eleanor over, pronouncing her healthy and strong. "You did well, Mrs. Chambers," he said. "Both of you, get some rest now. You have earned it." After the doctor and Margaret left, Elijah carefully climbed onto the bed beside Eleanor, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. Together they looked down at their daughter, marveling at every detail. "What should we name her?" Eleanor asked. "We never talked about names." "I have been thinking about that," Elijah said. "My mother's name was Rose. If you like it." "Rose," Eleanor repeated, testing the sound. She looked down at the baby. "Rose Chambers. Yes, that is perfect." Rose made a small sound, stretching in her blanket. Her eyes opened, unfocused, but searching. And Eleanor felt her heart expand in a way she had not known was possible. This tiny person, this perfect little girl, was hers, theirs. "I cannot believe she is here," Eleanor whispered. "After everything, she is finally here and safe." "You are both safe," Elijah corrected, kissing Eleanor's temple. "My girls, my family." His voice was thick with emotion. "I meant what I said before. She is mine, my daughter. Nothing will ever change that." Eleanor turned her face to his, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You are the best man I have ever known," she said. "The best father Rose could have." Elijah kissed her then, soft and reverent, careful of the baby between them. "I love you," he said against her lips. "I love you both so much it terrifies me." "Do not be terrified," Eleanor said, smiling through her tears. "Be happy. We are together. We are safe. We are a family." The first weeks with Rose were exhausting, but joyful. Eleanor healed slowly, her body recovering from the ordeal of birth, while Rose proved to have healthy lungs and a demanding appetite. Elijah helped with everything, changing diapers without complaint, walking the floor with Rose in the middle of the night when she would not settle, bringing Eleanor meals in bed while she nursed. "You do not have to do all this," Eleanor protested one afternoon, watching him fold tiny diapers. "This is women's work." "This is father's work," Elijah corrected firmly. "She is my daughter. I will care for her." He looked at Eleanor seriously. "Besides, you need rest. You scared me during the birth, Eleanor. You were so pale, so exhausted. I need you to recover fully, to be strong again." "I am getting stronger every day," Eleanor assured him. "And you are spoiling me." "Good," Elijah said, coming over to kiss her forehead. "You deserve to be spoiled." Rose began to fuss, and Elijah scooped her up with practiced ease now, settling her against his shoulder. She quieted immediately at his touch, making small, satisfied sounds. Eleanor watched them together, her heart full to bursting. This was not how she had imagined her life would turn out, but it was better than any dream she could have conjured. As spring advanced, the ranch came alive. Calves were born, grass grew green across the prairie, and wildflowers painted the landscape in brilliant colors. Eleanor regained her strength gradually, and soon she was able to move around the house normally, taking over more of the daily tasks while Elijah worked outside. One warm May morning, Eleanor carried Rose out to the porch to watch Elijah work with a young colt in the corral. Rose was 6 weeks old now, her dark eyes focusing better each day, her tiny fists waving at interesting things. Eleanor sat in the rocking chair Elijah had built for her. Rose nestled in her arms and watched her husband. He was patient with the colt, speaking softly, moving slowly, letting the animal come to him rather than forcing contact. She could see the same gentleness he showed with Rose, the same careful respect. Everything Elijah did, he did with purpose and care. Margaret Walsh rode up the path, waving when she saw them on the porch. "Thought I would check on the new mother and baby," she called, tying her horse to the rail. "Come up," Eleanor invited, smiling. "Rose is awake and ready for visitors." Margaret climbed the porch steps and peered down at the baby. "She is grown already," she said approvingly. "Looks healthy and strong. You are doing well with her." "Elijah does half the work," Eleanor admitted. "He is wonderful with her." Margaret nodded, watching Elijah with the colt. "He is a good man," she said. "Best kind of father. The kind who chooses to be there." She looked at Eleanor meaningfully. Not all men would have done what he did, taking on another man's child, treating her as his own. Eleanor stiffened slightly. "Rose is his daughter," she said carefully. "Of course she is," Margaret said easily. "That is exactly what I mean. Blood does not make a father. Love does. And that man loves her like she came from his own body." She smiled at Eleanor. "You are a lucky woman, Eleanor Chambers. And that little girl is lucky too. She got a good papa." "The best," Eleanor agreed softly. Elijah finished with the colt and walked over, his shirt damp with sweat, his hat pushed back. "Margaret," he greeted. "Good to see you." "Just checking on your family," Margaret said. "They look happy and healthy." "They are," Elijah said, his eyes on Eleanor and Rose. "We all are." He climbed the porch steps and dropped a kiss on Eleanor's head, then gently touched Rose's cheek. The baby turned toward his finger, making small seeking motions with her mouth. "Hungry again already?" he said with amusement. "You just ate an hour ago." "She is a growing girl," Eleanor said, rising. "I will take her inside to feed her." After Eleanor went in, Margaret looked at Elijah seriously. "You really love them," she said. It was not a question. "More than my own life," Elijah said simply. "Good," Margaret said, "because I heard some talk in town. People speculating about the timing of the baby, about Eleanor's condition when she arrived." Elijah's jaw tightened. "Let them talk." "I told them to mind their own business," Margaret continued. "But you should know, not everyone is kind. There are people who will say things, who will make Rose's life harder because of it. Then they will answer to me," Elijah said, his voice hard. "Rose is my daughter. Anyone who says otherwise can deal with the consequences." Margaret nodded approvingly. That is what I wanted to hear. Just wanted to make sure you knew what you might be facing. I know, Elijah said, and I do not care. Nothing anyone says can change what is true. She is mine. They are mine. My family. That evening, after Rose was asleep in the cradle Elijah had built beside their bed, Eleanor brought up what Margaret had said. They were sitting by the fire, Eleanor mending and Elijah reading the week-old newspaper he had brought from town. Margaret said, "People are talking," Eleanor said quietly. "About us. About Rose." Elijah set down the paper. "I know. She told me. Does it bother you?" Eleanor asked. "The gossip?" "Only because it might hurt you," Elijah said honestly. "But no, it does not bother me otherwise. People will always find something to talk about. Let them." Eleanor set down her mending and looked at him. "What if Rose hears things when she is older? What if other children are cruel to her? Then we will teach her the truth," Elijah said firmly. "That she is loved, that she is wanted, that she is exactly where she belongs." He moved to sit beside Eleanor, taking her hand. "The world can be cruel, Eleanor, but we will make sure she knows she is valued, that she matters. That is what family does." End quote. Eleanor leaned against his shoulder. "Sometimes I still cannot believe this is real," she admitted. "That I have you, that Rose has you, that we are here, safe and together." "Believe it," Elijah said, wrapping his arm around her. "This is real. This is our life, and I would not trade it for anything." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the fire crackle and Rose's soft breathing from the bedroom. Finally, Eleanor spoke again. "I was so scared when I came here," she said. "Terrified, really. I thought maybe you would let me stay long enough to have the baby, and then you would send us away. I kept waiting for it, for the rejection, for the moment when you decided we were too much trouble. That moment never came, because it never will," Elijah said. "You are not trouble, Eleanor. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. Both of you." Eleanor turned in his arms to look at him. "How did I get so lucky?" she whispered. "I am the lucky one," Elijah countered. He cupped her face, his thumbs stroking her cheeks. "I was half alive before you came, just going through the motions. But you woke me up, reminded me what it felt like to hope, to love, to have something worth protecting." He kissed her softly. "Thank you for giving me that." Eleanor kissed him back, deeper this time, pouring all her love and gratitude into the gesture. When they finally parted, both were breathless. "I love you," she said. "So much it scares me sometimes." "Love me anyway," Elijah said with a smile. "Scare me too, while you are at it. I like being scared with you." They laughed together, soft and intimate, and Eleanor thought again how lucky she was. Not just to have survived, but to have found this. Real love, real partnership, real family. Summer brought long days and hard work. Elijah hired 2 ranch hands to help with the growing herd, young men from town who lived in the bunkhouse and took their meals in the main house. Eleanor found herself cooking for 4 men and caring for a growing baby. But she did not mind. The house felt alive now, full of voices and activity. Rose grew rapidly, her dark eyes brightening, her smile appearing more frequently. She was a happy baby, content to lie on a blanket on the floor while Eleanor worked, or sleep in a sling against Eleanor's chest while she cooked. But her favorite place was in Elijah's arms. Whenever he came in from the fields, she would light up, reaching for him with chubby hands. "She definitely knows her papa," one of the ranch hands, a young man named Tom, commented one evening at supper. "Never seen a baby take to a man like that." Elijah looked down at Rose in his lap, feeding her small bites of mashed potato, and smiled. "She knows where she belongs," he said simply. Later, when the hands had gone to the bunkhouse and Rose was asleep, Eleanor and Elijah sat on the porch, watching the sunset. The prairie glowed gold and orange in the fading light, endless and beautiful. "Tom said something today," Eleanor mentioned, "about Rose knowing you as her papa." "I heard," Elijah said. "It made me realize something," Eleanor continued. "She will never know any different. To her, you will always be her father. The only father she ever knew." "That is the way it should be," Elijah said. He looked at Eleanor seriously. "But when she is old enough, we should tell her the truth. About how you came here. About her birth father. She deserves to know her whole story." Eleanor had thought about this, worried about it. What if it changes how she sees us? What if she feels betrayed? "We will tell her with love," Elijah said. "We will make sure she understands that every choice we made was to protect her, to give her a good life. And we will make sure she knows that being her father has been the greatest honor of my life." He took Eleanor's hand. "She will understand, and if she has questions or anger, we will help her through it. Together." Eleanor squeezed his hand gratefully. "You always know the right thing to say." "Not always," Elijah said with a small smile. "But I try." As fall approached, bringing cooler nights and the promise of harvest, Eleanor realized how much her life had changed in a single year. Last autumn, she had been desperate, alone, and terrified. Now, she was a wife, a mother, a partner, in building something lasting. The transformation was so complete, it sometimes took her breath away. One September afternoon, almost exactly a year after she had first arrived, Eleanor stood in the doorway, watching Elijah teach Rose to stand. The baby was 6 months old now, strong and curious, eager to explore her world. Elijah held her little hands, supporting her weight as she wobbled on unsteady legs, her face scrunched in concentration. "That is it," Elijah encouraged. "You can do it. Strong girl. Just like your mama." Rose managed to hold herself up for 3 full seconds before her legs gave out, and she plopped down on her bottom. She looked surprised for a moment, then started laughing, that beautiful baby laugh that made everything else fade away. Elijah scooped her up, tossing her gently in the air. "You did so well," he praised. "Before we know it, you will be running all over this ranch, getting into everything." Eleanor came over and wrapped her arms around both of them. "Our daughter," she said softly. "Our family." Elijah kissed her, Rose giggling between them. "Our everything," he agreed. That night, after Rose was asleep, Eleanor lay in bed beside Elijah, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. His hand traced lazy patterns on her back, comfortable and affectionate. "Do you ever think about having more children?" Eleanor asked quietly. Elijah's hand stilled for a moment, then continued its gentle motion. "I have thought about it," he admitted. "Do you want more?" "I think I do," Eleanor said. Someday. Not right away, but eventually. I want Rose to have brothers or sisters. I want our family to grow. Then we will grow it, Elijah said simply. When you are ready, when the time is right. He tilted her chin up so he could see her face. I want everything with you, Eleanor. More children. A long life. Growing old together. All of it. Me too, Eleanor whispered. All of it. They made love that night, slow and tender, relearning each other's bodies after the long months of pregnancy and recovery. Afterward, Eleanor curled against Elijah's side, feeling complete in a way she had never imagined possible. I was thinking, Elijah said into the darkness, we should add on to the house, build a proper bedroom for Rose, maybe even a second bedroom for future children. That would be wonderful, Eleanor said. Rose is getting too big for the cradle anyway. She needs her own space. I will start drawing up plans tomorrow, Elijah said. We can begin construction in the spring, after calving season. Eleanor smiled against his chest. Plans for the future. Room for growth. It was everything she had not dared to hope for a year ago. Winter came again, but this time Eleanor was ready for it. The house was warm and well-stocked. Rose was healthy and thriving, and Elijah was always there, steady and strong. They spent the long evenings by the fire, Elijah often holding Rose while Eleanor knitted or mended, sometimes reading aloud to both of them from the books he kept on the shelf. Rose's first Christmas was simple but joyful. Elijah carved her a wooden rattle and a small horse. Eleanor made her a soft doll and a new dress. They hung a wreath on the door and strung popcorn for the mantel, and on Christmas morning they all sat by the fire together, while Rose examined her gifts with serious concentration. Next year she will be walking, Elijah said, watching Rose attempt to eat the wooden horse. Running around, probably talking. It goes by so fast. Too fast, Eleanor agreed. She leaned against him. But every day is a gift, every moment with her, with you. I am grateful too, Elijah said quietly, for all of it. The noise, the mess, the exhaustion, all of it. Because it means I have you both. I have a family again. As the new year began, and winter slowly released its grip on the land, Eleanor realized she was pregnant again. This time, there was no fear, no shame, only joy. She told Elijah one evening after Rose was asleep, taking his hand and placing it on her still flat belly. All ready? He said, his eyes widening. Then he grinned, pure happiness lighting his face. We are having another baby? We are, Eleanor confirmed, laughing at his expression. Probably late summer. August, I think. Elijah pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. This is wonderful, he said into her hair. Rose will have a brother or sister. We will have another child. Our family keeps growing. Are you happy? Eleanor asked, even though she could feel the answer in the way he held her. I am more than happy, Elijah said, pulling back to look at her. I am blessed. More blessed than I ever thought I could be. He touched her face tenderly. Thank you, Eleanor, for giving me this life, this family, everything. You gave me everything first, Eleanor said. You saved me, Elijah. You and your kindness, your acceptance. You made me believe I was worth something again. You were always worth everything, Elijah said fiercely. From the moment you stepped off that stagecoach, brave and scared and trying so hard to be strong. I saw who you were then, and I see who you are now, and I love every part of you." They held each other in the lamplight, two people who had found each other against all odds, who had built something real and lasting from broken pieces. Outside, the prairie wind blew cold, but inside they were warm, safe, together. Spring brought new life to the ranch. Calves were born, foals arrived, and Rose took her first wobbly steps. She was walking by her first birthday in March, toddling around the house with determined concentration, getting into everything. Eleanor's pregnancy progressed smoothly, her belly growing round again, and Elijah started construction on the house addition. The sound of hammering filled the days as Elijah and his ranch hands built 2 new rooms onto the back of the house. Rose would have her own bedroom, painted yellow like sunshine. The second bedroom would wait for the new baby and any future children that might come. Margaret Walsh visited one spring afternoon and found Eleanor sitting on the porch, watching Rose play in the grass while Elijah worked on the roof of the addition. "You look happy," Margaret observed, sitting down beside Eleanor. "I am," Eleanor said simply. "Happier than I ever thought possible." "Good," Margaret said. "You deserve it, both of you." She watched Elijah for a moment, then added, "I knew from the first moment I met you that he loved you. The way he looked at you, the way he stood up for you. That is a good man right there." "The best," Eleanor agreed. She touched her belly, feeling the baby move. "We are having another one, due in August." "Congratulations," Margaret said warmly. "Rose will be a good big sister." As if hearing her name, Rose toddled over, her dress grass-stained, her dark hair escaping its ribbons. "Mama," she said clearly, reaching up. Eleanor lifted her into her lap, careful of her belly. Rose settled against her, thumb in her mouth, content. These simple moments, Eleanor thought. These ordinary, beautiful moments. This was what happiness looked like. Summer arrived hot and dry. Eleanor moved slowly now, heavy with the baby. But she refused to stop working entirely. Elijah watched her like a hawk, ready to step in if she did too much. But Eleanor needed to stay active. It kept her from thinking too hard about the upcoming birth, about the memories of pain and fear. "I am nervous," she admitted to Elijah one night as they lay in bed. Rose was asleep in her new yellow room, and soon there would be another baby in the house. About the birth. "I know Dr. Harrison will be here. And Margaret too. But I remember how hard it was with Rose." Elijah rolled to face her, propping himself up on one elbow. "It will be all right," he said gently. "You are stronger now. You know what to expect, and I will be right there, just like before." "Promise?" Eleanor asked, feeling foolish for needing the reassurance. "Promise," Elijah said firmly. He leaned down and kissed her belly. "You hear that, little one? Your mama is worried, but she does not need to be. She is the strongest woman I know. And when you are ready to meet us, we will all be here waiting for you." The baby kicked hard against his lips, and Elijah laughed. "Strong like your sister," he said. "This one is going to keep us busy." In mid-August, Eleanor went into labor. This time it was faster, her body knowing what to do. Dr. Harrison and Margaret arrived quickly, and once again Elijah refused to leave her side. He held her hand, wiped her forehead, breathed with her through the pains. You are doing so well, he encouraged. Almost there. Just a little more. And then, with one final push, another cry filled the room. Dr. Harrison smiled broadly. It is a boy, he announced. A healthy baby boy. Eleanor laughed through her tears as Margaret placed the baby in her arms. He was smaller than Rose had been, with a cap of dark hair, and Elijah's blue eyes already beginning to show. A son, Elijah breathed, looking down at the baby with wonder. We have a son. What should we name him? Eleanor asked, exhausted but euphoric. Elijah touched the baby's tiny hand, and the infant's fingers closed around his. Samuel, he said softly. After my father, if you like it. Samuel Chambers, Eleanor tested. Sam for short. Yes, it is perfect. Elijah sat on the edge of the bed, one arm around Eleanor, one finger held tight by baby Samuel. 2 children, he said, his voice thick. 2 beautiful, healthy children. How did I get this lucky? We both did, Eleanor said, leaning her head on his shoulder. We both got lucky. The ranch hands took care of the evening chores while the new family rested. Rose, barely a year old herself, was brought in to meet her new brother. She looked at him with solemn curiosity, then patted his head gently. Baby, she said clearly, one of her few words. Yes, baby brother, Eleanor confirmed. His name is Sam. You have to help Mama and Papa take care of him. Rose nodded seriously, as if understanding the weight of this responsibility. Then, she climbed onto the bed beside Eleanor, careful of the baby, and settled in. Elijah wrapped his arms around all of them, his whole family, and felt a contentment so deep it was almost painful. This is everything, he said quietly. Everything I ever wanted. Right here. The following weeks were a blur of feeding, changing and soothing 2 small children. Eleanor marveled at how different babies could be. Rose had been easy, content, quick to smile. Samuel was more demanding, fussy, needing constant attention. But Elijah loved him fiercely, walking the floor with him at night, singing rough lullabies, patiently trying to figure out what the baby needed. He has a strong set of lungs, Tom commented one morning at breakfast, dark circles visible under his eyes. The bunkhouse was close enough to the main house that Samuel's nighttime crying kept everyone awake. Sorry about that, Elijah said, not looking sorry at all. He will settle eventually. No worries, boss, Tom said, grinning. Sound of a healthy baby is a good sound. Means life is continuing. Means the ranch has a future. Eleanor looked at Elijah across the table. At this man who had taken in a desperate pregnant woman and made her his wife, who loved her children as his own, who built a life and a home with such care and dedication. Her heart swelled with love for him, for this life they had created together. Fall arrived, and with it came the hard work of harvest and preparation for another winter. But this year, Eleanor faced it with confidence. The house was warm and solid with its new addition. The root cellar was full, the woodpile was high, and most importantly, they were together. One October evening, Eleanor stood in the doorway of Rose's room, watching Elijah read to their daughter. Rose sat in his lap, her thumb in her mouth, listening intently to the story about a brave little girl who lived on a farm. Samuel was asleep in the cradle in their bedroom, finally settled after a fussy evening. And they all lived happily ever after. Elijah finished, closing the book. Time for bed, Rosie. He carried her to her small bed, tucked her in under the colorful quilt Eleanor had made, and kissed her forehead. Good night, sweetheart. Papa loves you. Love you, Rose mumbled sleepily. Elijah stepped into the hall and found Eleanor waiting. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. Two children asleep at the same time, he said. It is a miracle. Eleanor laughed softly against his chest. It will not last. Sam will be up in an hour, wanting to eat. Then we should enjoy the peace while we have it, Elijah said. He led her out to the front porch, where they sat together in the rocking chairs, looking out at the prairie bathed in moonlight. Do you remember this night a year ago? Eleanor asked. We sat right here, and you told me you loved me. I remember, Elijah said. Best decision I ever made, telling you that. I was so scared, Eleanor admitted. Scared to believe it could be real. That you really meant it. I meant every word, Elijah said. Then and now and always. He reached over and took her hand. You are my wife, Eleanor, the mother of my children, my partner in everything. I love you more with every passing day. Eleanor squeezed his hand, tears pricking her eyes. I love you too, so much. You changed my life, Elijah. You gave me everything. They sat in comfortable silence, hands clasped, watching the stars come out. Inside, their children slept safe and warm. Around them, the ranch thrived. And between them, love had built something lasting and true. We did all right, did not we? Elijah said softly. You and me, building this life together. We did better than all right, Eleanor said. We did something wonderful. The years ahead stretched before them, full of promise and possibility. Eleanor knew there would be challenges, hard winters and difficult seasons, moments of fear and uncertainty. But she also knew that whatever came, they would face it together. As a family, as partners. Samuel started crying from inside the house, his hungry wail cutting through the peaceful night. Eleanor started to rise, but Elijah gently pushed her back down. I will get him, he said. You rest. He disappeared inside, and Eleanor heard his low voice soothing the baby, heard Samuel's cries quiet as Elijah changed him and brought him out to Eleanor for feeding. She settled into the rocking chair with Samuel at her breast, Elijah standing behind her with his hands on her shoulders. This is my favorite time, Elijah said quietly. Late at night, when it is just us and the children, when everything is quiet and peaceful and safe. Mine too, Eleanor agreed, looking down at Samuel's small face as he nursed. His eyes were already drifting closed, content now that his belly was filling. I was thinking, Elijah said, maybe next spring we could take a trip to town, get a photograph made, the four of us together, something to remember this time by. I would like that, Eleanor said softly. A family portrait. Our family. Our family, Elijah repeated, and the words were full of wonder and gratitude. He leaned down and kissed the top of Eleanor's head. My family. Forever. Samuel finished nursing, and Eleanor handed him to Elijah to burp. He patted the baby's back gently, swaying slightly, humming a tune Eleanor recognized from the songs he sang to Rose. Samuel burped loudly, and Elijah chuckled. "Good boy," he said. "Now you can sleep for a while." They stood together under the stars, passing the baby between them until Samuel was deeply asleep. Then Elijah carried him inside to his cradle, while Eleanor checked on Rose, who was sprawled across her bed. Blankets kicked off. Eleanor covered her gently, smoothing her dark hair, overwhelmed by love for this little girl, who would never know she had any father but Elijah. And that was exactly right, Eleanor thought, because Elijah was her father. In every way that mattered, in every moment that counted, he was her papa. The man who had held her when she was born, who walked with her when she cried, who would teach her to ride and work and be strong. Blood meant nothing compared to love. In their bedroom, Elijah was already in bed, watching the cradle where Samuel slept. Eleanor climbed in beside him, and he immediately wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "Do you ever regret it?" Eleanor asked quietly. "Taking me in? Taking on children that were not yours?" "Never," Elijah said fiercely. "Not once. Not ever." He tilted her face up to his. "You are mine. They are mine. This life is mine. I would not change a single thing. Not even the sleepless nights?" Eleanor teased gently. "Especially not the sleepless nights," Elijah said, smiling. "Because they mean I have children to wake me, a family to care for, a reason to get up every morning." He grew serious. "Before you came, I was just existing, going through the motions, but you made me live again. You gave me purpose. You gave me love. You gave me the same," Eleanor whispered. "You saved my life, Elijah. Not just from poverty or shame, but from hopelessness. You showed me what real love looks like, what a real man is, what family means." They kissed then, soft and deep, a promise renewed. When they parted, Eleanor settled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, feeling the steady rise and fall of his breathing. Samuel made small sleeping sounds from the cradle. Beyond the walls, the prairie stretched endless under the stars. This was home. This was family. This was love in its truest, deepest form. "Thank you," Eleanor breathed, "for everything, for choosing me, for loving me, for giving our children such a good father." "Thank you for stepping off that stagecoach," Elijah replied, "for being brave enough to come here, for trusting me with your heart." His arms tightened around her. "I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it." "I could never regret it," Eleanor said. "This is the life I was always meant to have. You are the man I was always meant to love." They lay together in the darkness, holding each other close. Two people who had found their way through hardship and fear to something real and lasting. Outside, the wind whispered across the prairie, carrying with it the promise of tomorrow. Inside, a family slept safe and warm, bound together not by blood or obligation, but by choice and love and unshakable commitment. The ranch would grow. The children would thrive. The years would bring both joy and sorrow, triumph and challenge. But through it all, Eleanor and Elijah would face everything together, their love the foundation upon which everything else was built. And that love, Eleanor thought as sleep finally claimed her, that love would be enough. More than enough. It would be everything. The mail order bride arrived pregnant, and he said, "I'll love you both."